So unless you've been living under the most spacious rock in the housing market for the past half decade, or actually have a life outside of the internet, you've likely heard of VTubers in some way. A wholly unique form of live streaming where a person interacts with their audience through an anime-like avatar. They're not always anime avatars, but the majority tend to lean towards this style. Given how big HololiveEN still is these days, it's needless to say that this took the internet by storm a few years ago. And while I'm not equipped to go into the history of VTubers right now, maybe ever, the VTuber sphere really took off during the pandemic years, thanks to the advent of HololiveEN, one of, if not the biggest VTuber corporations out there. Not like there's much competition these days, but hey. While HololiveEN was exclusively aimed towards the Japanese market to begin with, it wasn't until the advent of the English branch, appropriately titled HololiveEN English or just HololiveEN, that I'd say VTuber really took off. Maybe I'm wrong, I know a lot of the success can be drawn back to the legendary dragon herself, Kiryu Koko, who was great at bridging the gap between the Japanese org and English fans, but I can barely remember what happened last week. I should probably sleep better times. Anyway, the English branch has been extremely successful in the last half decade, supporting 4, technically 5 different generations of talent that all, for some reason, have their own in-depth lore. You can see it in the first generation of talent alone, known as HololiveEN English Myth, or just Myth, featuring Death's first apprentice, the Phoenix in human form, a descendant of Atlantis, a time-travelling detective, and the bearer of Necronomicon that imprisons fucking Cthulhu. The debut of Myth was when I first found down the VTuber rabbit hole, before eventually digging myself out for a few years and then venturing back down towards the start of this year, most likely never to resurface again. I only really watch stuff from HololiveEN, usually while working on stuff, or doom scrolling the UK job market, but I do dabble in some indie VTubers here and there. Never mind me being lost in a surface level rabbit hole though, because from the brief summaries of Myth's individuals' lore, you can tell things are going to get crazy, and they go even deeper than you'd think, with the lore getting more in depth perhaps being too much for the second generation of the English talent, known as the Council. I'll tell you now, everything here is a lot more than you'd expect from the otherwise simple premise of streaming with an anime avatar, especially when most of the time, you're probably just paying attention to whatever they're actually doing on stream, or their incredible designs that usually have huge personalities. So join me as I go over the surprisingly detailed lore of the amazingly talented HololiveEN English girls. For reference, I'll be going over their lore in order of their debuts. I'm tempted to speed this one up like I did with the Shadow Lore video because I just honestly think it's funny. To start, HololiveEN is a group of mysterious mythical beings plus a detective who is investigating them. First, Mori Calliope. She's what's known as a Shinigami. If you ever played Shin Megami Tensei, I'm first going to call you a nerd, and then tell you anyway as a spirit. In her case, she's a spirit with the concept death. Specifically, she's been assigned as an apprentice to the ever-inevitable death, should the ideal concept cease to exist, which I guess would also render her position void, so maybe we should tell her that she's been strung along, but whatever. However, in the modern age, the business of reaping souls is declining because fewer and fewer humans have souls, but also partly because of how medicine is evolving, which I don't believe stops the whole ceasing to exist thing, but I suppose the delay of meeting the end has done a number on their profit margins. Because of this, Mori decided to become a VTuber instead to harvest the souls, most likely for the people who ascend while listening to VTuber ASMR. Has Mori done ASMR? I generally don't know because ASMR makes me feel uncomfortable most of the time. Before Mori chose to become a VTuber, she was working 2 jobs when she resided in the the underworld. One of them we can safely assume was her reaping job, and the other was as a waitress. To be honest, working in hospitality, at least on Earth, would be a surprisingly good way of harvesting souls, considering all the shitheads you'd have to put up with all day and inevitably want to send to the underworld. Despite her appearance and general demeanour though, she's actually a cutie patootie at heart who greatly cares for her friends and may or may not have a thing for a certain League of Legends loving orange woman at the disapproval of another orange woman. She also happens to be a rapper, and the only person Eminem is afraid to face on the mic. Instead of my own opinion here, I've seen so many people hating on Mori throughout the years based on their music, and I gotta say, that's your opinion, buddy. Don't force on other people. Despite rap not really being my thing, personally, I love her music. End of Her Life is just beautiful, off the heads I hard vibe with, and I especially love the Grim Reaper as a live streamer. That's my jam. Next is Takanashi Kiara, who is a phoenix personified and is an idol who dreams of owning a fast food chain. Yep, that's Phoenix. The same undying flaming bird of legend wants to run a fast food chain. I know reality can be harsh and we're told to dream small, but I think the undying one can maybe strive a little harder than that. It's your life and your decisions at the end of the day, so I guess I can't be too critical. Nevertheless, the fast food chain she wants to run she calls KFP, standing for an obvious homage to the famous fast food chicken chain, Big Chicken. Sounds like a whole big pharma thing. And when you consider her fanbase is also named KFP and is depicted as chickens, oftentimes working in the restaurant itself, what kind of dystopian nightmare is this? I would have never pegged the Phoenix as being horrifyingly sadistic. Given the whole undying thing, it's unsurprising that Kiara has revived several times at this point, but every time she does, it's in a different dimension, always meeting Calliope every time she does, and has stated that so long as Calliope is present, she doesn't mind how many times she gets revived, so in other words, she's a simp. Next is Niome. I can't do the meme. Next up is Niome Ininis. Despite her otherwise innocent looks, she's actually a priestess of the Ancient Ones. You know, being so powerful, terrifying, and well, ancient, that even speaking their names is prohibited in fear of them unleashing their wrath upon us once more. And one day, let's say on a random Tuesday, she came into contact with a strange, not a little suspicious looking book that totally didn't harbour dark secrets and trapped something far beyond our comprehension. But no worries, nothing bad happened, only hearing the occasional angel whisper that reveals information to her that humans were not at all supposed to know. But in fact, she has gained something quite beneficial, the ability to control these strange tentacles that seemingly have no origin, despite emerging from her back. She does claim to be human though, so I trust her. Now, I know what you're thinking when I mention tentacles. I am also corrupt and need saving. That's why Ina has taken it upon herself to deliver what she calls sanity checks on a human race through the method of VTubing. You know, to make sure whatever was whispered to her doesn't come true and reality doesn't cave in on itself, if minds learn of information that could be catastrophic to existence by just hearing it. Fun. That last part is conjecture, but how do you expect to know the real reason? I can't talk to ancient ones, let alone another human. Next is Galgura, the little shark girl hailing from the long-lost mythical region of Atlantis. She only emerged from Atlantis because she claimed it was boring and later said Atlantis didn't have french fries, so she was uninterested in returning. Incredible. You have your priorities, Galgura. But even in the rare chance she wanted to return, she couldn't because she says it's been gone for thousands of years anyway, which leads me to wonder if she was just idly swimming in the ocean for years on end before she came to the surface. If so, damn, I wonder what kind of sea life she saw down there. Actually, no, the true extent of the ocean is horrifying, keep me in the dark. Gura doesn't actually have a lot of lore. Plenty of it coming from small mentions of what I deem to be unimportant details, like how she considers food in Atlantis to be boring, but even despite her, pun intended, shallow lore, she did go on to be the most successful VTuber, even to this day, with well over 4 million subscribers and spawning plenty of memorable memes and moments, so story substance isn't always everything. Finally, for Myth, we have Watson Amelia. One day, Watson heard strange rumors surrounding HololiveEN itself, namely the beings that reside within the company, such as a magical talking fox girl, a magical squirrel girl, superhuman dogs, as well as other mythical beings. Because of this, she decided to join the company so she could investigate up close, which coincidentally landed her in a group that has probably the most reason to be investigating regarding their origins and capabilities. Lucky her. Originally, she was born somewhere in the 1920s, which you can kind of see in the iconic detective getup she sports, but she somehow time traveled to our time thanks to an encounter with some Lovecraftian horror in a graveyard. This is why you don't go into graveyards at night. One wrong slip and bam, you're suddenly displaced in time and in an idol group. She's known as a time traveler group, which you can do by using the stopwatch that contains something known as a time crystal, but the exact technology that makes this possible she keeps a secret. God forbid someone tries to travel back in time and correct whatever causes OPM Season 3 to turn out how it does. As you can imagine though, time travel comes with its own risk, and I don't just mean convoluting stories and inevitably spawning plot holes, but also to the person themselves, with Amelia stating it's incredibly dangerous and part of the reason why she won't travel with people because she doesn't know what would happen if she did. That's it for Myth. So moving on to accounts. Nope. We gotta address the elephant in the room first, Project Hope. Preceding the second generation of English talent, there was going to be another generation, known as Project Hope, but unfortunately it never went anywhere. I hint at some of the mess to follow regarding this era of talent, but we did get the debut of Iris from it. Iris is a Nephilim, a half-demon, half-angel being, and was the embodiment of the concept of hope back in a mysterious land known as the Paradise. With how the current age is riddled with suffering and despair, hitting the nail right in the head with that one, she has been awakened once more to spread hope among the masses through song. Here Comes Hope is a banger, honestly, it's so good. She does not speak of the events that preceded her second awakening, instead just chooses to move forward, which is all we can really do in life. No matter how many times we get knocked down, what matters is if we get back up again. Unfortunately, that's all there is to talk about regarding Project Hope, because it never ended up going anywhere, likely because of stuff behind the scenes we're not privy to. It's a real shame, honestly, because Project Hope seemed to want to put more of a focus on the musical side of being an idol. Iris's raw talent as a performer being evident of that, but even if it did fall through, we thankfully still have Iris. Honestly, she has really come into her own as a personality, having this sort of ditzy airhead vibe about her that makes for fun moments. Alright, so now we're into the Council, and Omega help me, this one might get out of hand. The Council is a, well, council of powerful otherwise immortal entities that represent various aspects of existence, and the universe as a whole, and arguably the most powerful generation in terms of scaling. To start, we have Sakuma Sana.
Why are we still here?
She's known as the Speaker of Space, and subsequently the first concept created by the gods. Now, who or what are the gods? That is genuinely a good question. So after she was spawned into the mortal realm, or anywhere outside of my house as I like to call it, she gained an interest in the totally scientific subject of astrology that people used to blame Jupiter for them being a bitch. During her foray into the pseudoscience, she kinda just stumbles across something called the Forbidden Truth. What is the Forbidden Truth? I'm not telling, it's forbidden for a reason, and then she becomes an apostle for the Ancient Ones. I think if this world is so liable to the Ancient Ones being even semi-present, we might have to hit the reset button. There's also some cryptic BS about how humanity is not prepared for information regarding space, as we have yet to explore even a percentage of it, which would explain the concept's often strange behavior that can be seen in the avatar Sana itself, but that's not important, don't worry about it. So you see Sana here in a massive worm sidekick? Well, first, Sakuma Sana is actually larger than the Earth's sun, but thanks to this thing called a limiter, which you can see on her head, she can shrink down enough to be able to wander Earth, measuring at a tiny 5'7". See, I love tall women because every woman is taller than me. And going back to this creature, this is Yatakulasu, a being that in its normal form is incomprehensible to humans, but appears like this so we can actually lay our eyes on it without our brains turning into mushy peas. To get serious for a second, I really love Sakuma Sana. When she graduated barely a year after her debut, I was genuinely heartbroken because she was such a passionate and charismatic personality. Now, you can blame that on the whole parasocial relationship thing and how you let that get out of hand, but she was fun, man. She had so much potential for great moments among the current members and future members as well, but obviously that never came to be. It is what it is. I know she had her reasons and she is still out there, like, trust me, I know about her current persona, but it's kind of not the same, you know? It's odd. Okay, no, I don't want to go into the whole psychological deep dive regarding parasocial relationships, so moving on. So let's Fauna. Oh god, it's one after the other. Anyway, Fauna is the keeper of nature, and the second concept created by the gods. A druidic Kirin, whatever that is, that just appeared on the internet one day to convince humanity to return to nature, using a soft, gentle voice and knowledge of cursed memes. Alright, but you should never let her invite you into her forest, because you may never leave. Is that Fabrice gold? Is Fauna a weird forest cryptid? Damn, it's always the instant looking ones. As mentioned, she is a Kirin, which in Chinese mythology is a four-legged mythical creature that is on par with the legendary dragon and the undying phoenix, in terms of power, or rather utility in Fauna's case, having excellent healing and restoration capabilities, the golden apple she's often depicted with being a great aid to this. I wonder if it can cure my crippling anxiety. Regardless, these restoration capabilities were put on display once, with her having restored the entire Earth from destruction, which she did once Sakuma Sana accidentally removed her limit and crushed the Earth between her otherworldly thighs. That last part about the destruction is not part of the lore, I'm sorry. Following the Kirin cultist, we have the Warden of Time, the third concept created by the gods, Oro Crony. As her title suggests, she is the Warden of Time, Much like the unwavering cruel mistress that is time, Crony is perfect. The narcissism is off the charts for this one. Due to her overwhelming perfection in everything, the decisions she makes and the bouts of luck she experiences often transcend our basic understanding. We humans have never encountered something such as someone so perfect that's difficult for us to comprehend in any sense. Like, you think it's a thing you hold near and dear to your heart, and despite valid criticism, you still value deep. I couldn't do it one single go. And therefore enforcing the definition of perfect for you is the epitome of perfection? Well, that's because you can't comprehend Crony. If you could, then you'd understand your understanding is limited. Before we humans understood time in its most basic sense, it was only just another cog in the universe's massive engine. But eventually, we came up with names for certain times of the day, like morning, night, dusk, and dawn, which turned out to be a huge mistake because we basically submitted to Crony's control after empowering her by giving her a concept of meaning. And now, in her presence, almost lightly partially incomprehensible form, she's as sadistic and prideful as the woman of such a vital part of the universe as you would expect. Narcissistic, prideful, and sadistic, you say? Say less, mommy. I'm sorry. Second to last for the council is Nanashi Mume. This one hurts a little. That's not for now though, so in the meantime, Mume is the guardian of civilization, a travelling owl that is supposedly so old that she even forgot her name at one point. Now go by Nanashi Mume because it was the last one she remembered being given after being witness to and recording so many historic human events, which, if you know anything about human history past last week, that's honestly fair. She was once just an observer, letting us go about our free will, but now she wanders among us. Fuck's sake. Among us, like, imposter sounds just played in my head when I read that out loud. Enjoyed her interactions with our more feeble minds. Unlike the rest of the council, she was not created by the gods, again, whoever they are, but is instead just a living embodiment of mankind's efforts. Essentially, we willed her into existence, and that makes one of the few good things we've actually done in this momentary housekeeping called life. Due to this, she was allowed to choose how she appeared, obviously choosing to look like a cute, innocent owl girl, but looks can be deceiving, as she harbours something more sinister beneath. During her existence, she created herself an owl friend out of paper to represent the valuable nature of paper being used for writing, as a way to store knowledge for the future generations, which despite how fragile paper can be in reality, is a particular kind of beauty in its impermanence, perfectly capturing the essence of life. Wow, I got too deep there, damn. Anyway, here's an upside down rat. Hackhouse Bells is chaos personified, birthed by the world itself. She was appointed by the gods as the leader of the council, because if there's anyone I want to be the leader of a group of godlike beings that can rapture us in a split second, it's the one who revels in chaos and disorder, likely to stand by and watch should any catastrophe befall our reality. Luckily for us though, due to the whole disorder thing, she hasn't accepted the decision to be in control and just kind of goes about her life. But it's not like any other member has chosen to take up the mantle instead. They just follow orders from Bells as if she were in control, an almost hilarious irony if you ask me. Despite bearing a strong resemblance to the rat, you know, in the same way Jane Doe from Xenosaur's Zero is a rat. Whew, goddamn. I don't think I'm beating the furry allegations anytime soon. Bells is not. She's instead just chaos. Although for the sake of simplicity and not imploding our brains, she appears as a rat, which is fitting because rats are typically associated with chaos. The choker she wears was given to her by the gods, along with a key to unlock it, but not even she knows what it's meant for. Personally, I like to think it's similar to Shadow the Hedgehog's inhibitor rings, keeping a much greater power sealed. Now, to address the second elephant in the room, the gods that I've mentioned a few times so far have never had their identities revealed, choosing to keep the idea up to interpretation. But to say that would also be ignoring the elephant in the room, because following the debuts of the entire council, on a collab stream where they were all present, they started teasing the reveal of another figure in law, Omegaα. For those unaware, Omegaα was a huge missed opportunity. There was supposed to be some powerful figure with supposedly strong ties to the council, perhaps one of the gods that created them. People think they were behind the scenes staff, like how H-chan or Harasaki Nodoka was, or how Izuki Michiryu and Hanazono Sayaka is now, for example. Sorry for butchering pronunciations there. Who, while having an outward presence in Hololive with their own 2D model, supposedly Omegaα was going to be more involved, teasing lore and other bits of information about the characters or whatever. But because of stuff that happened behind the scenes, maybe something as simple as creative block, it just kind of stopped. With Omegaα having been retired officially in 2024, though according to Takanashi Kyoan and Shiori Novella in a collab stream in 2024, the person behind Omegaα left even before the debut of the third generation of English talent in 2023. What I'm trying to get across here is that the second generation talent was unfortunately cursed with Project Hope falling through, whatever Omegaα was going to be falling through, and the graduations of multiple members of the council, first up with Sakuma Sada, which led them to incorporate Iris into the group and rename the council to Promise, subsequently leading to their lore as a group and individual members getting revised into something simpler. The group name being dedicated to their graduated members as a promise to keep on going, which aged a little too well, with both Fauna and Mume graduating later on. Those events were somewhat spaced out to be fair, at least with the graduations, but they were also complemented by other talent graduations, such as Watson Amini a few months before Sella's Fauna and Golgura just a few days after Nanashi Mume. It was a cursed time to be a council fan, let alone a Hololive fan. Point is, Council era was full of potential, but was unfortunately rough, and I still miss Sana.
Just to suffer.
Sorry about the little essay there, but things perk up from here regarding the generations. On to Advent now. They're all criminals. Yep, just a group of criminals that escaped the cell. What is the cell? It's a huge underground complex of a prison that's meant to keep sealed those or things deemed untouchable, all of them would you have guessed, being extremely dangerous individuals in their own right, but as a group, that's a dragon level threat. God. Jeez. One Punch Man. I haven't even started watching season 3. But yeah, seeing everything about it makes me so sad, man. To start, there's Shiori Novella. She's an archivist. Her insatiable thirst for knowledge has driven her to extremes, leading her to unintentionally stumble upon forbidden knowledge, where she was soon imprisoned. Real 1984 type stuff. However, because she's Not mentally sane, I mean just look at her. She relished in the moment, considering it a good story in and of itself, before she decided to plan an escape, which she was successful in, mind you, if that wasn't obvious given the whole fact she's VTubing. I don't know, she could have some insane setup in prison or something. Her forbidden knowledge does come with perks, however, like how her eyes can glow in the dark like flashlights, or how she knows the location of Nurse Ravencroft's broken horn, we'll get to that, or even how her hair used to be all black, but now has white parts more on stress than the knowledge. Okay, so maybe stress is a bad thing, but a black and white look really works for her. She and Nerissa also have a fictional daughter together, named Beatrice Neori, world-destroying novella. That is like peak anti-fanfiction day material, I love it. Shiori, however, doesn't know how this happened, with Beatrice even having an older brother, so I'll put the amnesia down to the stress of the forbidden knowledge, or learning the forbidden knowledge just spawning the children in Shiori's memory, just without context. Both are valid possibilities, mind you. Second is the window wiper gremlin disguised as an anime girl, Kaseki Biju, who I'll be referring to as Bibu going forward. She was formed through the crystallization of all human emotions, and is known as the Jewel of Emotions, a very pretty title for a very unique kind of gremlin. Because of the innate beauty of human emotions in crystal form, since her creation, people have fought for ownership of her, probably because she's fetched for a staggering price in the black market that should, hopefully, be enough to buy a carton of 6 small eggs in today's economy. But this only led to her to be in prison outside, coincidentally in the same prison that Shiori Novella resided. The possessor of forbidden knowledge coming into contact with new forbidden knowledge, I can't see anything going wrong with that. What's interesting though is that it didn't take much for Bibu to be imprisoned, apparently, being lured in with cake. Now, if we're talking carrot cake, I'm right there with you, girl. Underrated goat of cakes. Despite how that may sound, Bibu is deceivingly powerful. Should she become overwhelmed with negative emotions, which remember, she's a being that is literally made from human emotions, her form cracks and becomes a hollow being that controls all the emotions around her, including gods! What the fuck? If you don't know why that could be a bad thing, you obviously don't know enough about various gods throughout history, namely the Greek ones, and for that, I pity you. She also just cannibalizes her fans sometimes. Like, her fanbase are known as Pebbles, and Bibu's basically a rock, remember? And she kinda just eats them sometimes. They respawn after a while, apparently, but that makes it the second time a HololiveEN member eats such as supposedly eats her own fans. Now, if I had a nickel, she was apparently also wielded by Shiori to blast enemies in their escape from the prison. Bibu's a weird one, I'll say that much. Third is Nerissa Ravencroft. She's the demon of sound, having a great love for music, a love so deep that it turns dark. Her voice now having the capability of driving the world insane. Whether that means to the point of ears bleeding and brains exploding, or submitting to her control and being her whim, I don't know, but I kinda want to find out if it's the latter. Fortunately, or unfortunately for us though, the gods, there's the mention of them again, are little bitches and decide to seal her away somewhere for eternity. Not before snapping off one of her horns to restrict her powers and tossed it somewhere, the location of which Shiori knows of, as mentioned earlier, but just as any old Disney parent trying to feign to discourage her child from doing anything, Nerissa's desire for singing did not disappear. So when she came across the otaku culture in the pocket dimension, I guess, she became obsessed with being an idol and pen lights. Wow, this prison is weirdly well furnished. On the topic of otaku culture, while she was sealed away, she listened to a lot of Toho music, which I don't even need to think twice about because Toho music is an intense zeitgeist. Nerissa is not only part demon, but part raven as well. And with how ravens are usually obsessed with shiny things, you can imagine she has quite a fondness for Bibu. Regarding her demon origins though, Nerissa comes from a powerful demon family down in hell, her father being known as the Demon King. I don't know if he fights Gandalf in a regular title. Her mother is the Queen of the Ravens, and is bad as I'm sorry. Her older sister is an angel? For some reason, I must have missed that part. A middle sister who is also a demon, and a younger brother who, again, is a demon. I should say, Nerissa's family has actually appeared on stream with her, and while she isn't the only member of the English branch to have had their family members feature on their channel, Omegaα has had a mum, the British coming out. British! Oh, bad teeth and teen crumpets. Oh, fuck. Omegaα has had her mom feature a few times, for example. Nerissa's family is the only one with any significant lore, so that's why I specifically mentioned them here. She was also an employee of KFP before joining HololiveEN, so I gotta wonder how she feels about her fellow birds being served as food. Moral and ethical questions aside, we've got quite unique entry here. The first genuine twin sister duo in HololiveEN, Fuwawa and Moukoko Abyssguard. Despite them being a duo though, I am gonna cover them separately, start with the older, absolutely not evil twin, Fuwawa Abyssguard. To start though, together they are known as the twin demonic guard dogs of Athens, taking heavy inspiration from Cerberus in Greek mythology, which guards the gates of the underworld. Usually Cerberus has 3 heads. I don't know what the third twin is. Then again, Cerberus was said to have around 50 heads by the Greek poet Hesiod, so now I wonder what the other 48 twins are. They were both imprisoned in the first place for apparently being a complete pain in the ass. If you know anything about chihuahuas, that's completely understandable. So anyway, the fluffy one has a duty to look after her younger sister, Moukoko, along with their own little demonic creature known as Perugino, or just Pello, who also happens to be their mentor? I mean, even I could probably use it at a fair distance, but sure, why not? However, despite how cute she looks, if pushed, she can be extremely vicious. Think for an chihuahua. Originally, they were from a place called the Northwest Passage, which is somewhere within the demon world and also happens to be in Pacific Standard Time. Apparently, it's a lot nicer than you expect from it being in the underworld, featuring a lot of trees. It's a little vague, almost as if the description is focusing on the one good thing, rather than the obviously bad things to push the agenda, but that's not important. What about Moukko-jan? Moukoko Abyssguard is the younger sister of twins, known as the Fuzzy One. While in prison, she spent her time being a degenerate weeb, watching anime and playing games all day. Yeah, wow, this prison they were kept in is awfully well decked out. That's been a Swedish prison. Now, with how the twins are usually inseparable, you could have already guessed that the Abyssguard twins' lore is just one package and not wholly unique, but in the prison escape, Moukoko did throw Pello at the guards, so I guess me and her are on the same wavelength. And we're here! The final English generation, at least for the time being, Justice. Justice is a group that was formed in order to capture Advent and put them back in the cell.
Why can't I hit her? Oh, she's so good! Why can't I hit her?
I have negative hope they'll succeed. Regardless, first we have someone of royalty, the Scarlet Queen, Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame. Despite her title though, she does not descend from royalty, suggesting it's more of a nickname or she amassed her own kingdom of followers that treat her as such. Having a presence about her that commands the hearts of everyone around, and how she's always at the forefront of missions, she is, without doubt, the leader of Justice, who, as you can imagine, has her work cut out for her and this stresses her to hell and back. She is from the kingdom Great Exardia, which may or may not be inspired by Great Britain. I wonder if the job market is any better there. If so, I might just have to pledge my allegiance to my new queen. Elizabeth is actually one of the very few humans in HololiveEN English, besides what's the immediate and Nina Maininess. That doesn't matter though, because I imagine she's more than capable with the way she casually carries around this cool ass sword. Second is the unrivaled gremlin of Hololive English, Gigi Moen. She was born and raised under the flag of freedom in the country known as Frisia. Real soul. Despite how unhinged and seemingly uncontrollable she can be, she's surprisingly proficient at her job, but struggles with the more four heavy problems, like cryptic clues that Advent leaves in the trail, claiming that thinking makes her head hurt. Real. You'd be surprised to know her official species is Gremlin. I wouldn't say like the Gremlins from Gremlins, but in a more spiritual way. She also wields these cool, massive gauntlets, and if there's any trope I love, it's somebody wielding a weapon that's way too big for them. Like Senna and her Comet Man from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, or Cloud in the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy 7. Plus, gauntlets are just cool. I just adore hand-to-hand combat. Third is the ancient automaton, no, not the witty, unsettling but cool one from the Legends of the Discovered Sword, but Cecilia Immergreen, who has a particular interest in all things dainty, like flowers, tea, and crane music. You lost me on the tea part, but you do you, like, go. She was crafted in ancient times for the purpose of eternal servitude, but everyone changes over time, and she eventually started slacking off, only to basically abandon any duties she was even still doing, instead just crafting shit. The craftsmanship of the ancients was so advanced that she never physically ages, but they forgot to overlook the part where she can get sick if she's not maintained properly. What kind of asshole creates a new form of life and makes sure it's vulnerable to life's inconveniences? I guess to keep it humble or something, I don't know. Who and why did they choose this lineup for Justice? I think it could have been caught by now if anyone even slightly more competent had been chosen. Even then, supposedly Immergreen's been working for Justice for a long time, even before it was known as Justice, so the organizer has had some time to reshuffle the roster. Management being the true incompetence again, kind of me surprised. Immergreen is from Immerheim, which in German means everhome, similar to the word evergreen, otherwise meaning an eternal home. That's honestly super sweet and wholesome. Her weapon is a violin that can transform into a lance, which is not only cool as hell, but also means she's the epitome of a bard in fantasy. It's always been friendly. First I'll sing you a little tune and the next they're kicking your ass. Amazing. Finally for Justice we have the big cat hailing from the Romance Empire, Laura Pamplera. She is the artist with the god eyes, giving her excellent investigative and descriptive prowess, and allowing her to see anything from any distance. A lot like the Zami's clairvoyant eye field skill from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which lets her spy on a driver, no one's gonna get that. Anyway, these are very fitting for an artist and a cat. Her artistic prowess is almost scary, with suspect drawings of criminals' faces appearing so accurate as if she was actually there when the crime went down and was drawn in real time. These days, however, much like Cecilia Immergreen, who has thrown her responsibilities aside in favour of her hobbies, Laura uses her incredible god eyes to track down new pizza restaurants. I guess I can't blame her, she's got her priorities right. Besides tracking down criminals with her god eyes, her other duty in Justice was dealing with the paperwork, aka preparing and finalising criminal reports. But when she became an idol upon joining Hololive, she quit those duties. Go off girl, you made the right choice, paperwork sucks. At one point when they tracked down Furo and Makoko, Laura was sent to capture them, but like the cat that she is, she got easily distracted and went to play crane games instead. Personally, not a huge fan of crane games. I don't even remember the last time I played one, but I wonder if she was successful given how they usually rigged. On a side note, I want to wish Laura a speedy recovery from a vocal cord surgery. I've heard the recovery can take a little while, anywhere between 3 to 5 months, but I genuinely wish her the best anyway. After all, big cat means big recovery. Good luck, Mama. You've got this. Wow, right, we're done. Yeah, I wasn't kidding that HololiveEN lore was kind of a lot, even if it did start getting simpler by the end there. But all things considered, it's so cool that for as simple as VTubing may appear on the surface, just streaming with some kind of animated avatar, it's really so much more than that, because live streaming whatever you're doing and interacting with the audiences regularly is surprisingly stressful, and I commend anyone who does live stream. It feels so much more interactive to have a persona to get invested in when they have a story. At the time Hololive English came to be a thing, we were in the midst of the pandemic, and it goes without saying that it was a tough period for many. So to have had a form of escapism as interactive and generally fun as VTubing, with exciting personalities behind the colourful characters, which went on to help spawn a wave of indie VTubers and an entirely new form of entertainment, was really cool. I've always loved HololiveEN. Ever since I first fell in love with Mori Calliope's music, then finding my first Oshi in Tsukuma Sana, subsequently getting my heart broken when she graduated, then falling off a little but still keeping up with various bits of news, and then burrowing back down the rabbit hole thanks to HoloCure earlier this year, falling in love with VTubing all over again, and definitively choosing my Oshis of each generation. Nina Mainis for Myth, Tsukuma Sana for the Council/Promise obviously, my cameo Oshi the one above all, then Narissa Ravencroft for Advent, and Cecilia Immergreen for Justice. It's honestly been so fun watching it all develop into something so big. Sure, there's been heartbreak along the way, but just like in life, setbacks are only momentary, and what matters is how we recover from them. For the people around us, we must make our feelings transcend dimensions.